Alright, so what are we doing out here in the shop? Well, we've got on the shop TV a little restoration. While they work on their Ford junk, I'm over here working on my Mercury junk. Let's go over here and take a look. Alright, so last time we were together, I had most of that floor pan in, and I still had, well, let's back up here just. I still had this filler panel to put in, so I did that off camera. That's just basically a flat piece of metal, more or less. So I just cut that out, made it fit, got it wrapped up on the ends. We hadn't done any grinding on anything yet, but we've got it all fit, and it's all solidly in place. So what have we been doing today? Well, let's walk around to the other side and see. Well, for starters, we've been cutting out all this old metal. Been through a couple of grinding discs. It's right here underneath the driver's seat. There was a rust hole right here, so I went ahead and cut me a nice little square. A little easier to fabricate metal when it's a uniform shape. Well, looks like I need to go back a little further. I got more rust than I realized. There's a pinhole like in there, so we may just need to come on back. Not a problem. I'll have to go get some more grinding wheels. But that's not a problem. So what have we been doing up here? Well, we've been getting ready to do this floor pan for the driver's side. And we've been trying to cut out just as much metal as we have to. This side was worse than the passenger side. But believe it or not, the torque box on this side is in really good condition, where the torque box on the other side was way worse. So, floor pan's worse on this side, but the torque box is okay. The floor pan was better on that side, but the torque box was trash. So, you take what you can get. So, I just hadn't wanted to beat y'all to death with y'all watching me grind and whittle on this side. You've already watched me do it once. If there's anything to see that's of any value, I'll video it and I'll show it to you. But otherwise, right now, we are in cleanup mode and trim mode. So, probably bring you back and show you where we're at different stages. But at this point, we're just going to work off camera and bring you in for updates. So, until I do something new. So what are we doing? Well, like I said, we're trying to get her cleaned up. So we pulled everything out of the car that didn't need to be in the car. I went ahead and vacuumed up and cleaned up all the rust. And we got a few tools over there, and we got the floor pan just sitting in place. But we've started fitting it off camera last week. Give me a couple minutes and we'll get over there and talk about that. I was going to show you this real quick before we do that. This is the seat riser. This piece right here is the seat riser for the rear seat. It's what the seat sits on, keeps it at level. So, we got some rust issues. This whole trench, this whole trough right here, was filled with rust and crap. And as you can see, it's got some holes. There's a pretty good sized hole there. I am not going to try to cut that out and weld and repair it. I did a simple couple of straight cuts on this piece and just folded it down. And when I get ready to, I can, after I've done what I'm going to do to repair this, I'll fold it back in place and I can weld it back, put it back like it was. While we were back here, we were evaluating back here. And when I started digging, as I have with every piece of this car, the more I dug, the worse it got. So, we're going to have our work cut out for us back here underneath the back seat, because this is the top portion of it's kind of a torque box back here. I'm not real sure exactly what they call it back here, but it's real similar to like the torque box in the front. Spring attaches real close to that area, so this kind of area of the car needs to be pretty strong, so because the suspension's hooked to it. And I don't know if you can see it. Let me zoom in right there. You can kind of make it out. Is that right in there? You can see it below where the rusted floorboard is. That is the rear frame structure. And like I said, the spring and all that attaches in right there. And this right here is actually the top of that torque box. And you get the bottom piece. The bottoms of the torque boxes appear to be okay, but the tops of them I'm probably going to have to put in some new metal. Not going to be anything really more than what we've already done. It's just a matter of, like they say, ain't nothing to it but to do it. So let's get into this driver floorboard. We need to be handling one thing at a time. All right, what I really wanted to do was I wanted to take a second and jump in here just a few seconds. And if you're building your car for the first time, I've done several cars like this. I was really starting to get myself overwhelmed, and I had to pump the brakes for a second. And what I had to do was back up and take a look at what I was doing. I was trying to evaluate too much of the car at one time. Don't try to take on too much at one time. Basically what you need to do is you need to work on one area and one part at a time, and don't overwhelm yourself. Sure, you need to take a look at everything and kind of get an idea, but don't make and plan too far out. Plan for where you are today and work on that. Don't try to work on 2 or 3 different areas of the car. Pick one thing, stick with it until it's done, and sometimes there is overlap in these things that you have to do, and you kind of have to know where that is, where those overlaps are. But try to go and get it completed in one area as much as possible as you can before you move on to another area, so that you do not get overwhelmed working on your project. Now, let's jump in. All right, I guess the best place to start is right here and show you what's going on this inner rocker piece. Where the floor was attached, right along here, back here, actually started rusting out and getting some pretty good rust holes in them. So there's no way to get to the back side of this inner rocker, so it's gonna be hard to treat that for rust. So basically what I'm gonna need to do is I'm gonna plate over the top of it. I contemplated cutting it out and trying to fit a new piece, but I think what I'm just gonna do is I'm just gonna grind it, get all the old metal off that was welded here, and get this smoothed out. And I'm just going to weld a plate on top of that. While we're in this area, right here, where the floorboard goes into the torque box, I started cleaning that up and prepping it up. And I wanted to get in there, and I really wanted to look and evaluate what it looked like inside the torque box. It's got a little bit of scaly rust, but it's not terrible. I've seen way worse. It was mostly just kind of like surface rust. There's no holes. And that's actually a pretty thick piece of sheet metal, so that torque box is okay. The problem was the where the floor pan actually went over the top of that, and I had to cut that out. Like I said, I wanted to get in there and kind of take a look and evaluate anyway, and I cut the hole bigger than it needed to be, but that's okay. It had a pretty good chunk of rusty metal there, and I'm going to try to replace that piece and weld over it, and then I'll put the floor pan on top of that. Now frame rail extension floor support, as you can see, is pretty hashed. It's worse than the other side, but it's not unrepairable. I'll do it the same way. I'll take a piece of metal and form it in the shape of a C, and I'll cap this whole piece and cover all the rust up, and then I'll treat it really good with some Pour 15. The other side turned out pretty good. I was pretty pleased with how it turned out, so that's how we're going to repair that. And then we will move into fitting the floor pan into the car. So that's going to be a trick in itself. So let me get some music going, and let me get started. Got our piece cut out, got her fit to the car and held in place with some self-tapping screws, kind of help pull it up as tight as it can, and got everything primed and ready to go. Guess now it's time to weld it on. We have been out here thrashing and working, and we got this piece welded on that we talked about earlier, and I made the repair piece for this. Hand me the camera and I'll go on and swing it in there. I don't know if you'll be able to see it because we have run, yeah, you can see it a little bit. We have absolutely run ourselves out of daylight, but you can also see that you can't see through it anymore. So I'll be able to Pour 15 that. But we are making some progress. We have, like I said, I have been trying to work really hard, really diligently on this old Mercury to try to get some work done. And hopefully tomorrow I'll be able to come out here and put this side floorboard in and be done up here with any luck at all. So until next time, if you have never seen one of my videos on this Comet before, why don't you go watch one coming on the screen right now.